Hi, I'm Brian Donovan from the Hudson Republican Committee. And joining me tonight is Dennis Hogan, who is the Hillsborough County Attorney. Dennis, thank you for joining us, and welcome to Hudson here. Hillsborough County, the Attorney's Office, I kind of think of the District Attorney. I think in New Hampshire it's the same thing, basically.
It is. In fact, I'm a member of the National District Attorneys Association. So, yeah, we're district attorneys. But for historical reasons, in the Constitution of New Hampshire, it's called the county attorney.
Sure. And as the county attorney, what type of cases do you try?
Well, the county attorney handles the felonies. And so, just a point of understanding that you get the misdemeanors that are handled in the circuit court or the local courts, and then the superior courts handle the felony cases. They also handle misdemeanors that are appealed to the superior court. So we handle those cases. We don't handle murder cases; those are handled by the AG's office.
Oh, I see. Now, you have offices in Manchester and Nashua, correct?
Right, Manchester and Nashua. There's a new courthouse in Manchester, 300 Chestnut Street, beautiful building. That's where our office is in Manchester, and then in Nashua it's in the old courthouse.
And your staff is how large?
Well, we have 40. There's about 20 attorneys, and then the staff of, you get secretaries and victim witness advocates, 2 investigators, so it's about 40 altogether.
Now, we know that last year the Republicans in the state legislature was able to shave spending by about 11%, and we have a balanced budget for the first time in years. Now, I know on your office, it's really funded on the county level, but you're also kind of dealing with a 6% reduction in...
The county is controlled legislatively by the individuals who are elected as state representatives. They go to the county government, and they make up the county delegation. So the county delegation, trying not to raise taxes, but also at the same time experiencing a reduction in the amount of stimulus spending that was coming to the county, had to cut us 6% just to stay even, basically. So we had to go through a 6% cut. It was a difficult thing because you start to you get rid of things that you for years had been doing. In fact, the process was very difficult in that we first went through the budget and said, okay, we're not going to do this buying these books, and when seeing that the technology is taking us to a place where we don't need certain things, and we did all that, and we were very proud of ourselves. We maybe cut by 2%, and then we got what they call the roll-ups, which is you have your salary, and then rolled up into that is how much you're going to pay for unemployment compensation and health care and Social Security. Well, we were brought right back to even. So, so we thought we had done so great, and then we were told, no, you're going to give a budget that's flat. And then from our flat budget that we proposed, they made us cut 6% more. And we made up some of that with people retiring. We got rid of some positions that we really would not have wanted to get rid of, and when an attorney left, we didn't replace that attorney. So we've gotten to the point where, because of a level amount of cases that we get and a reduction in the amount of, because of that stimulus spending that went away, we got rid of some grant attorneys, and the county's cut. We're getting so we've gone from like 105 cases per year per attorney to 120, which it's not good. I don't like that at all. It forces them to say, what am I going to do with this case? I can't handle these all. Sure. We want to handle them all right, but we just can't go to trial any more than we already were. You're going as much as you can to begin with, and you get more files for the same person. It makes you have to make deals that you didn't want to make, and so I'm concerned about it, but we're dealing with it. And I say the way we're dealing with it the best is that we've attracted people that are better at the job. So we've replaced those who left, I think, with people who are superior, and they've managed to handle it so far, but they're under pressure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to imagine in your line of work, your relationship with the chiefs of police throughout the county must be critical. So what do you do to try to maintain or build that relationship?
Well, I'll tell you, I started building the relationship before I even got elected. I tried to go around and meet with all of the chiefs in their offices, and I met with most of them. And that's, you get that relationship started, because just knowing the person and understanding how they take things, and just knowing something about them is very helpful. And I go every month to the Chiefs of Police Association meeting, and that's been helpful. There's been times where things have been, pressure, or there's been times when I've talked to the press and I thought, oh, that chief's not going to, if that appears a certain way in the press, that chief might not like that, and I don't want to have a conflict relationship with anybody.
Sure.
So call the chief and talk to him. Oh, thanks for calling me. And he already knows me. So it's I think I've done a great job in improving the relationship that is there between my office and them.
Right, right. And I've got to imagine the chiefs of police, that's a pretty stable job. I mean, they're not, those folks aren't moving very...
It is if they want it to be. Really
it drives so much of the criminal activity that you're seeing.
And I don't mean that, some people say if you just legalize drugs, you'd get rid of the problem because drugs wouldn't be illegal, you wouldn't have any way to prosecute. That's not what I mean. I mean, there are those cases that are drugs, and we're getting people for dealing the drugs and for possession of certain drugs that they're not supposed to be. But it's really what they're doing to maintain their drug habit that's driving it. And if you legalize them, you're not going to reduce that. I don't know if you'll increase it, but you're certainly not going to. Why would you reduce that?
Right.
Other than, well, I don't even want to think about it.
Right.
What people would say if it was legal and whether or not we should be paying for it after that. Boggles the mind.
Right. Well, you mentioned the increase in burglaries. What type of reaction? How does that impact your office? What do you have to do to kind of combat that?
Well, we see that increase in cases. I've noticed that really there's no direct correlation between crime rate and how many we get in our office. But there is some relationship, I think. I think because there's so much crime, it becomes easy, in a sense, for the police to get a case that can go to trial. Then it's going to increase the amount that we do, and it seems like that's what we're seeing is that there's a lot of it happening out there. The police are able to grab people. It looks like we're going to be able to get a conviction, and then we end up with the file. So it's an increase in work.
Sure.
For us.
One of the things that I'm always surprised at, and I see this in the Nashua Telegraph from time to time, I think most people, think of New Hampshire, most New Hampshire residents are very proud of the quality of life that we have here. Obviously, Nashua was rated one of the best cities in the country a couple times. Right. From time to time, you see in the Nashua Telegraph, they're talking about gangs in Nashua, gang activity, which to me is a little bit surprising. But, what does your office have to combat that? Is that a special program or anything that you folks do?
I think when it's first combated at the level of juvenile court, because it does tend to be young men who are trying to be macho and, get together as a gang and, that sort of thing. As they get older, we've seen cases of people breaking into the wrong house and beating somebody. That was a case that we handled. We've seen cases of stabbings that, had to do with, drug money and,
sure. Right.
So they might only be loosely affiliated gangs, but still they're people together. And what they're doing is committing crime. So in that sense, they're gangs. We're sending somebody to a gang task force conference down in Taunton, Mass. Pretty soon. So we definitely want to do what we can about it because that's where the crime's coming from. We want to understand it and do something about it.
Is there any particular trend regarding gang activity in New Hampshire? Has it always been a certain level or peaks and valleys?
It's hard for us to say just from where we are because the police, as I say, they deal with a lot of it on the district court level because it's still misdemeanors. And we don't really have stats on whether it's increasing or decreasing, so it's more like stories. But it's there now when we're talking about it, where years ago we didn't address it the same or didn't see it the same. So whether we've changed our perception or whether it's changed, I'm not really sure. Yeah.
And as you mentioned before, if you're at the felony level, a lot of their activity is probably a little bit more on the misdemeanor side, so it doesn't really rise to your level. Right.
But I think, with the stabbing one, that was a person who we understand had done something gang-related in Massachusetts just, like the day before or something.
Really?
So we know he was a gang guy.
What is the SART initiative? I know that's something that's important for you.
Right. It's Sexual Assault Resource Team. And so it's a state initiative to get everybody involved. And when I say everybody, I mean the chiefs, the police involved in trying to come up with a new or better way of prosecuting sexual assaults. And the reason we thought we could maybe do that is because there's something called the CAC, which is the Child Advocacy Center. And the purpose of that is to make it so that children don't have to continually tell a story that needs to be told to the police, a prosecutor, a victim witness advocate, somebody from YDC, you know, a Bridges type thing, which is in Nashua. All those people who need to know the story in order to help the child. What we do is we bring them to the Child Advocacy Center. Somebody's in another room watching on television and can hear the conversation, and the child knows that. And in with the child is one professional interviewer taking questions with an earpiece, so that all the questions get answered, and then the team is there saying, "Oh, we didn't ask this yet. Let's ask that question. You know, go this way, find out about this."
Right.
So it all gets done. So we've realized, and it's a fabulous system, by the way, and it's mostly paid for with private funds.
Really?
Although some of the towns chip in money, and there is some state money, but there's a big fundraising gala. So if anybody at home wants to go give some good. Give money to a really great cause. The Child Advocacy Center is one. But, and you know what, it's called the Childhood Alliance, Granite State Alliance or something like that. They changed its name to go from being just Hillsborough to being more of the state. But at any rate, we saw the success of that and said, we should be able to do something for adult sexual assaults, because statistics seem to show that they don't get reported to the police, and even if they do get reported, you know, as the person goes through the system, they lose interest in doing it, or you know, something happens so that the conviction rate just doesn't seem to be anywhere near the incident rate. So what can we do to do something about that? And so we have a team that has started, you know, the process of looking into what we can do, teaming up with the chiefs of police, and the chiefs of police are on board. We have prosecutors going out with the what they call SANE nurses, which is someone who's going to get the information medically at the hospital and work through the kit that they have. I'm trying to think who else is involved. But anyway, those folks who are on the team go out to the police stations and get them to maybe look at it in a different way. It's a training, so that next time they have a complaint about sexual assault, they will go. The process will start in a way that gets that victim from, you know, the incident to a successful completion. And if it's, you know, in my mind, hopefully that successful completion is a conviction for somebody who's actually guilty. And one of the initiatives that's part of that is believe the victim. In other words, from the get-go, we're saying, look, this is just like you're saying somebody stole my car. We believe you, of course. You're saying there's a crime. We believe you. Don't think that we're going to come out there and say, you know, somehow we're looking to find why you're wrong. We're going to believe you from the first, you know, instant, and then start the investigation just as you would any investigation. Now, okay, sometimes you end up doing that investigation. It comes out to there's a different story here.
Sure.
The truth is something different, and we'll get to that. But most people, that's probably not the case. So, you know, we encourage people to report so that we can start investigating. One of the important things about reporting, too, is you never know if the person that did it to you has done it to somebody else. And you're finally reporting it will get the ball rolling and take somebody off the street that's really doing damage to the society. So.
Well, going back to the CAC, was it Child Advocacy Center? Is that new to New Hampshire, or is that a trend that you're seeing inside New Hampshire?
It's since 2000.
Okay.
Marguerite Wagler, when she was the county attorney, she pushed to have it done, and she was part of the board. She may still be part of the board now that she's a judge.
Okay.
So my first assistant, Patty France, is on the board now for that, and keeps working to keep it alive.
Good.
Because it is a lot of private funds. So.
Well, I was just going to say we could include that into the show. There's a website that people can go to, if you know it right now, or we can just.
Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Okay, and we'll put that on there as well, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested in that. I remember, and this was going 15, 20 years ago. There was a famous case of a daycare in Massachusetts. Do you remember that? I
remember the Massachusetts one. Right. I thought you were going to mention the New Hampshire one that was more recent. But.
No, well, the one in Massachusetts, I think the issue was that you had a child that was reporting some type of sexual crime, and I think after time goes by, there was a very serious question about the authenticity of that allegation. So I know that...
And then there was in Minnesota, I believe, as well. There was a whole brouhaha about whether that was all true.
Right.
You know? And that's why the professional investigator is so important. They have protocols that there's a way to ask the question. You don't never lead the child into something. Just ask an open question and see where you go with it.
Right,
and yeah, it's important from the point of view of, there are times when we think there's an incident, we talk to the child and find out there isn't.
Right.
That's great.
Right.
If there's nothing going on, we don't want to go down the road of prosecuting or arresting or whatever with somebody that hasn't done anything. It's just a misunderstanding of some sort. And then on the other hand, because of that, much better evidence that we're going to be using.
Right. So does that mean prior that there would actually be a situation where you would have a young child conceivably with all sorts of legal professionals in an environment asking them questions? I mean, that must be...
You mean before they came up with this great
approach?
idea?
Yeah.
Think first thing, call the police. Policeman comes out, gun, belt, whole 9 yards. What happened? If the kid says anything, great, but what are even the chances that the child's going to say anything? And then, okay, so now tell the prosecutor what happened, because I get a prosecutor, what happened?
Right.
Oh, why do you, the child's in danger, so, youth services has to, what happened?
Yeah. Right.
And there's other services, too, that might be happening.
Well, that sounds like...
Everybody wants to know what happened.
Sure.
And then by the time they get to the court,
yeah,
they're just worn out. They don't even bother with it.
Well,
in some instances.
Sure.
Not all. But.
Well, you'd have to, everybody would want to protect the child in that situation as much as you possibly can, and why not do it as much as effective as possible?
Absolutely.
Especially if you believe as a professional you're getting better quality evidence in the long run. So that sounds like something, we're going to get that information. We'll put it as part of the show so folks can take a look at that. I had a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you that kind of relate to the New Hampshire State Republican platform, because obviously law and order happens to be something that's really important to that. And this actually kind of is a follow-up on that, the whole topic that we're discussing right now. There is a plank that under the child protection, they establish strict laws to protect children from sexual predators, including life incarceration as appropriate. So what's your...
Well, there's that which we're doing, obviously, on a regular basis, prosecuting people who are offending against children. And then there's also the SVP program, which is Sexually Violent Predators, which is a civil commitment. We go to the court and try to prove that the person has an abnormality that makes them a sexually violent predator. And then we can have them committed to the state to be treated and held for up to 5 years. And then you could go back, and that person could potentially stay there for life. Potentially could get out as well. But so we do that. Again, the budget issues, it puts that on the cutting board, to be honest. And I hope that doesn't have to happen. But because the state thus far has left it up to the counties, the state could take it over but doesn't. And so the counties are left with that. And Hillsborough has been at the forefront of pressing that Sexually Violent Predator Act and having people committed. So that's one of them. Good.
Another one that's really kind of off topic, but I just wanted to ask you, because obviously you're in the criminal justice world. Obviously New Hampshire has a tradition of strong Second Amendment rights. There is a plank of the New Hampshire State Republican platform that says, believe in the rights of law-abiding citizens to own firearms, to defend themselves, their family, and their property.
Right.
Your opinion on that?
I certainly agree with that, and we don't, as county attorneys, get that many opportunities to deal with it. We don't make the laws. We just we enforce them. But you did see an example in, I think it was Rochester recently, where the Stratford County attorney was able to make the call about whether or not shooting, letting the firearm go off in the presence of the person who was like leaving his house and with criminal intent or whatever, and saying, well, we're not going to prosecute that person. So, and which I agreed with.
Right. I do recall. That was just really within about the last month or so, I believe.
Right. So that's one of the areas that the county attorneys can get involved in that. I haven't been there for any of those types of situations, but I did talk about it with my staff, and there was a past one where somebody actually like took a shot out, with their gun out a door or something like that, toward the person who was the real, true bad guy in the situation, and that person wasn't prosecuted.
Okay, good. Because there have been situations, I believe, here in New Hampshire, a very famous case not too long ago where somebody was prosecuted for defending
Yeah, you're probably
themselves.
thinking of the Ward Bird one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that was a messy situation.
Yes, right. So, now, obviously, the county attorney position is an elected
Right.
position. It's a 2-year term,
Yes,
correct?
my first time I was elected was 2010.
And before that, I mean, you've got a unique background, I'd say. You've a little bit of everything. You grew up in Nashville, you mentioned before.
Yes, yeah.
You went to UNH.
Yeah.
While in UNH, you actually ran for, well, why don't you tell me?
Well, the first thing I ran for was a constitutional convention, which is very unique because we haven't had one since then.
Right.
And after that, I was actually an intern to Ray Burton, who's an executive counsel, so I got to see the executive branch of the state government. And that was while Governor Sununu was governor.
Okay.
And you can check my Facebook page if you'd like to see a picture of the three of us. I just put it up because I took a picture with my iPhone. But anyway, and then I ran for the legislature. It was the same electoral jurisdictions as the Constitutional Convention. So I figured I could get elected.
You're on the ballot anyways.
Yeah, and I figured it was a 3-month gig, and that wouldn't be too bad with being on the being in. After a few years, I had my own firm, so I wanted to get my name out and make sure people knew who I was. So I thought being in the school board, running for school board, would help do that. So I did that and got elected in 2005, and spent the next 4 years doing that. And then when I didn't run for re-election, then this possibility of running for county attorney came up. So I was very excited.
Dennis, so you were elected in 2010. You
Right.
have another election, or you're going to be up for re-election again in November of this year. So since you have 2 years under your belt, somebody was to ask you, what have you done, or why should you get my vote in November for the county attorney, what would you say?
Well, I'd say I do the job right. I don't try to make it a political job. I just go there and get done what I can. And that's to encourage people to do, become leaders of themselves, so that they are taking leadership in what they do. It makes a good environment for them to work in. So because there's a good environment for people to work in, I think I've attracted great talent to do the job. And so because we've attracted that sort of talent, we've managed to sustain a 6% cut in the budget and still get the job done. So I think that's partly to do with me. I mean, that's, obviously I depend a lot on what the staff is doing, and the staff doing well, but if you're the coach and your staff's doing well, then you take credit, right?
Exactly. Well, it sounds like you're doing a great job, Dennis. I want to just thank you for the work. Obviously, we're a resident here of Hillsborough County. It's good to know that we've got a great criminal justice organization. We feel really safe in our area, and especially in Hudson. So we appreciate the work that you're doing, and thanks for spending some time with us.
You're welcome.
And before we sign off, I just want to thank all the folks at Hudson Cable for all the work that they do. Rick Levaster is helping us out today, Jim McIntosh, Kyle Donovan, Chris Giorgio. So thanks, guys, for everything you're doing, and thank you for watching.